Cups is put on by the Kauffman Foundation across the country, and the idea is that we share entrepreneurship over a cup of coffee. Usually the businesses have been in business between 1 and 5 years, or sometimes we'll have winners of Go Code or even long-time businesses that are going through a pivot, and it's really designed to educate the community on the entrepreneur story, things they've overcome. And they have 6 minutes to present that, and then 20 minutes you as a crowd will get to ask questions. So anything you may want to know how to overcome in your business is really designed to be educational. As I said, it's 1 million cups. It's designed to be over a cup of coffee. Our coffee is provided by Switchback Coffee Roasters, which is a local roaster. And then our coffee sponsor this month is me, Accelerated Wealth. Accelerated Wealth, what we really specialize in is unlocking money for business owners. And what I mean by that is that we have ERISA attorneys, tax attorneys, forensic CPAs. We work with their CPA and their team of experts to bring advanced tax strategies down to the small business. So when you see on CNN or Fox News, and they're always talking about these big companies having lower effective tax rates, it's because they have access to these strategies, and we want to make those strategies available to small business owners as well, because really the competitive landscape should be level whether you're a Fortune 500 company or whether you have 2 employees, right? So that's really the idea behind Accelerated Wealth, is unlocking that money for business owners. So we also have our cup sponsor, which is the SBDC. They provide the coffee cups, so we're very thankful. And then we have our location sponsor, which is Catalyst Campus. They provide this each week to us free at no charge, and you can see it's a beautiful facility. So we're very thankful for Catalyst Campus and what they provide for us.
And they restriped the parking lot.
And
Exciting!
Yeah, we know where to park now, right?
Yeah. So excited!
So it's not a guessing game anymore, which is great. So yeah, we're really excited. We have only one presenter today. The other presenter ended up having jury duty, so we'll leave it to maybe some open networking and some community announcements after the first presenter. But our first presenter is OddBird, and they're from Denver, and we're excited to have them and welcome you to making the trip. Yay. Thanks for making the trip. Woo.
Thank you. I'm Miriam. Sandra is also with me here today somewhere. I think, getting her coat off. I started OddBird in 2008, so we've been around a little bit longer. This is me and my brothers starting the company, and well, I guess this is a few years before we actually started it. Playing Magic the Gathering, I think, nerds. When we first started out, we very quickly developed some open source software that became known. So Suzy is one that I developed. We created it. Django project is a larger project in the Python language that my brother is a core developer on. And that's how most of our work has come to us. He became a core developer on Django, and that makes him one of the top 13 Django developers in the world. And so suddenly we started getting work. And then on the front end, you don't get work through the front end as much, but we had Suzy, which became very big. We sort of became known in this open source free software world, and that led us to our first big client, Mozilla. We helped build their distributed test case management system. I had a phone call with them, the first phone call. They said, okay, we've got these 15 metrics that all interact. How are you going to handle it? And I said, not over the phone. I will get back to you in a week. Anyway, we had a lot of fun working with them. And over time, we've grown to now a team of 6 active day-to-day. And then one of my brothers is still a owner, but not working with us day-to-day. So we do web application design, strategy, development, sort of the full scope, and have picked up other clients. This client went on to be acquired, and the tool we built for them is now used by the military and the Coast Guard and the National Institutes of Health. And then this one, bike racing application, is used by the Ironman and enduro races across the country. So we've got some good clients. We've had enjoyed working with them. They've seemed happy. Over time, we've become regular speakers at conferences. We write for various online magazines and other places that post neat articles and a book about code. So again, sort of playing up that way we started in the open source world, a lot of giving back, a lot of talking to other developers. So it's been interesting. We're really well known among developers, and they don't know what we do for a living. And we're not as well known among clients, which can be hard. So we provide full stack development, project guidance. Like we don't just write the code. We want to figure out what the company's goals are. How are we going to solve the problems? We want to help them. I think we were surprised when we started working for Mozilla. We think of Mozilla, they develop Firefox. We thought, oh, wow, we are outclassed. What do we have to offer Mozilla? This is their entire company. But we came in and we realized we were working for their QA department, and they know lots about the web, but they don't know anything about developing a project from scratch. If we had been working with their Firefox team, they would have known how to develop that kind of software. But we're experts at that part of it, so we try to bring that to our clients. We're not just going to do what you say. We're going to push back and say, actually, this is what works, and this is our experience. Over time, we've become known for our values. This is always sort of the things that clients say about us afterwards, and also beforehand, the reasons they hire us. They get in a first meeting with me, and I'm really honest with them, and I just ask questions and talk to them. And then they're like, oh, you're just honest. And that's been sort of like, I'm always shocked that that's shocking. But that's sort of how we've done it. That's been our whole thing. And this sort of solving problems for them, helping them think through what exactly are the trade-offs, what exactly are we solving for what users. And then since we're an outside company often coming in just to help people get started, we have to think a lot about how are we going to hand it off to you in a way that's maintainable. So we do a lot of work around that. And that's been another thing that clients often don't realize they need. But then we insist and give it to them. And then 5 years down the road, they come back and say thank you. Which, again, it's hard to sell. You're going to get this 5 years after you fire us. So that includes things like automated style guides. I'm not going to go to OddBooks yet. So one of the problems we've been having is when we grew the team, we were doing, as a team of 3, we always had plenty of work after Mozilla because we only needed a new client every 2 years. And within 2 years, you'd have word of mouth, the next client lined up. Once we grew to a team of 6, we didn't think about the fact that we would need twice as much work. And we don't know how to do sales. Sales is not our thing. We know branding and marketing. I feel like we have that pretty well set. People understand what we're about, but we don't know how to get in the room with them. Once we're in the room with them, we know how to land a project, but how do we get in the room with clients in the first place? So that's the thing we've been struggling with, and it's a little bit hard to use some of the common sales techniques. They can easily feel conflicting with that values message, that we're just going to be open and honest. It's hard to do cold calls from that position. So that's a thing that we're struggling with, and that's why we're here. The other thing that we have thought about is doing our own product development, having some of our own product to sell. This is the one we've been working on. It's an open collaboration tool for writers. Just a simpler way to do collaborative changes and comparisons without, there's the Google Docs method where you're all in the same document typing over each other. And then there's lots of much more technical solutions or sending files back and forth. And there's nobody that really has a solution where you can collaborate with other people all in one place without writing on top of each other. So we've been working on that mostly because I want it. What's that? Okay, great, because that's it. Yeah.
Where did you get the name OddBird?
I came up with it. I was like, how do you call something queer software? 'Cause you can't just, so it was the closest we could get.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So it seems like most of your clients are, larger, that you said it takes about 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about working with smaller clients so it could be faster turnaround?
Yeah, the issue there is always that then we need them even faster. Also, they tend not to fit our skill set as well, in that we put a lot of time into that sort of, that 100% test coverage, that how are we going to do the handoff, in a way that doesn't work for startups always. They want something quicker and cheaper, and we're not the quick, cheap solution. We're sort of doing we often get our clients because they outsourced to India first, they got burned really badly, and then they come to us and they have PTSD from working with developers that didn't follow through. And so our job is to come in and clean up and follow through, but that gets expensive, which makes it harder to get the small clients. So we're in a weird niche where we're not enterprise size, so it's hard to get the real enterprise clients, but we're not startup focused either, and it's hard to find that middle. Yeah.
Related topic there. You said one of your struggle points is in the sales side of things, getting
Mm-hmm.
in the door. What are your guys' methods right now? You mentioned cold calling. Are you doing?
Well, so Sandra started doing some LinkedIn filtering and messaging. A lot of our clients over the history have come through conferences and speaking engagements. That's a little bit of a roundabout way in because we're often talking to developers and then we're hoping that they're talking to their bosses. So we've been doing that more since it's been the most effective that we have historically. Are there things that I'm forgetting?
We've started doing a lot more social media.
Yeah.
Things very specifically saying, this is what we do. Developer connections, in case you forgot, and you know someone who needs this. We're putting it out there.
We've started going to 1 million cups. Thanks. I think the other thing there is all of my speaking and all of my brother's speaking has been focused on developers. So I've started developing talks that are focused on the business community and like how to think about starting a web project, how to go about hiring, some of those ideas. So wondering if that gets us into some different places where I can talk. Yeah.
So when I see OddBird, web design and development, and I hear you talk,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a connect.
Okay.
I mean, I'm like, oh, okay, one more web design and development person.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're different. So either there's a tagline issue or there's a messaging issue.
Right.
That probably needs to be refined. I don't understand.
Yeah.
To follow on that, my question is, what do you mean by web design? Because again, I think of web design as,
Right.
okay, I want a website for my business, but it sounded to me like what you're doing is I have a program.
Right.
It's on a single computer, you know, and I could sell that. But everybody's doing web-based
Right.
applications, and it sounds like that's what you do.
Yes.
It's not design the web per se for someone's business.
Exactly.
The front page,
We're
you
not
design
doing
the back end that allows, where I tell people, come to my web, put in your numbers, and you'll make $1 million. You design it so it does it.
Right. Yeah. So we don't generally do websites. We do applications that people are interacting with in some way.
I would just use a little change because
Right.
I've been in sales.
So
for
this is what we actually currently have on our website, I think, web application strategy, design,
Okay,
and
got it.
development,
That
Yeah.
makes
which is maybe a little bit
I would
closer.
put that back into the front
Yeah.
because you're competing with 40
Right.
people in this.
This is on the front of our website, not on the front of our
Just saying.
this. Yeah.
So one of the things I don't get an impression, and you guys may not know yet, but I think as you advertise, let people know what size of business you're expecting.
Uh-huh.
You don't have to come out and say exactly
Right.
what the cost is, but because, you said you're having a hard time getting to General Motors,
Right.
Stanley, but you still end up, your jobs are more like Firefox, those guys.
Yeah.
Mozilla.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it, is a single, an entrepreneur, is it at a certain point where
Yeah, it's
a
often,
little too expensive for them now, but the fact is if they're up and running,
Mhm.
and they have, sort of when they become a company of so much money, it makes sense to move to you. Do you know what that number is?
we have some ideas. I would say it's often people that still think of themselves as startups, but they're actually five to 8 years in. They've already developed one thing successfully.
Sales by now, they've gotten to that point at least.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're often startups that have been successful and are now moving to their second step. That's often where we come in. Yeah.
What was the journey to discover this niche? Because it seems like something that most people wouldn't think of on a daily basis when they're thinking about their website.
Totally a mistake.
Yeah.
It's sort of the place where we ended up and realized that our skills seem to fit the best. I mean, so we've had clients that have ranged from much smaller to much larger to nonprofit, and this was sort of like when we started listing where have all of our favorite clients been, this was it. Yeah.
So as you showed your slides, what you showed were products that you developed for other people.
Yeah.
And so I get the whole web application design, but really what you develop are products.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then you showed a product you're developing.
Mm-hmm.
So then I'm wondering if the pivot is you guys actually developing the products, because to me that's your sweet spot, and they're not just small products.
Right.
Right? I mean, these are enterprise level products,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I concur, you're not a web design.
Yeah.
You are a niche product developer.
Okay. Yeah.
At the enterprise level, and you can sell that. I cut my teeth in web application development. Our first sale was into a Fortune 50 where we were billing $250,000 a month,
Right.
right? And so it's certainly doable.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I would concur, what you showed me versus what the way you're marketing.
Okay.
Is a disparity.
All right. Thanks. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, based on your clientele, your target market fit, how much of that are you focused on the U.S. versus in other countries?
We have, it's almost all been in the US at this point. We did a project in China, and then that fell through. So, and we had a hard time getting paid. But otherwise, it's most all been in the US. Yeah.
Have you looked at different distribution channels or different partnerships as a mean to generate sales, whether it be through reseller channels or OEM relationships, anything like that?
Have we?
No, how would that work with our service?
Well, it would depend on what verticals you wanted to target, and then find either some very specific resellers within those verticals, or maybe some manufacturers who are already working with companies that kind of fit into your sweet spot, and then establish relationships with them.
Right.
Those relationships could look different depending upon what the requirement is.
So we don't actually have a product that we can sell to them.
But your service, right?
Right.
Not necessarily a product, but a service. There's a lot of, there's a lot of OEM relationships where there's custom development that has to happen, and you could be a great resource for those companies versus them having to either have that infrastructure in-house, and if their customers don't
Yeah.
have it, or even if their customers do have it.
I think we're going to be talking to you after.
My next question is how do you find those people and how do you build those relationships?
Well, let's chat.
Yeah.
I'm not getting that you're a web design company.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting that you're empowering businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and web design is just a core competency.
Right.
That's just how you do it. But you stay with your clients for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, client is a better term than customer here, because you stay with them and you can do any, the first thing you do may be this cleanup.
Right.
So you do that and you can come in and you fix all that up, and then you start doing training and coaching and showing them how to use these tools, and you're giving them a lot of power.
Right.
And so the web design is what everybody else does. Not everybody does empowering.
Great. We're unique.
If I could add on to the lady's suggestion as an example, if you will, we're in beta testing for a company that can measure human cultures with trustworthy reliability. And with that, you can compare two cultures that will merge. Mergers, acquisitions, that kind of stuff. There's no way anybody looking at that, well, first of all, you can't find somebody who's going to do an acquisition, they won't tell you. But there are 5 big accounting firms in the nation that do almost all of the vetting, all the financials and that kind of stuff. And they ignore culture until it blows up on the other end because they're gone. They do. So we're going to start with one of them and operate an advantage over the other 4 to get into an industry that's closed to us otherwise. Does that make sense? That's what you meant.
That's one channel, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know we've been talking at you a lot, so let me ask
great.
you a question.
Sure.
So how have you seen kind of the iteration or the changes in web application development, since the late 90s to now we're about 20 years, 25 years
Mm-hmm.
into it, right? And then what do you see the future as?
Yeah. It seems to me, and this is a radical opinion when I talk to business people, the web and open technologies have consistently won. And everybody wants to tell us that native always wins, that native applications for iPhone or for Android or something. And in my experience, there is lots happening on native, and it's very exciting, but all of it eventually ends up moving on to the web. And the web works everywhere and is going to continue to work and is completely backwards compatible and device agnostic, and that's the only way we keep moving forward. So we're going to end up with lots of things that are hybrid. You can do a lot with putting a native frame around a web application. But long term, the web is the only long-term solution. And I think that's a big thing that's controversial right now. That's the first thing that comes to mind. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
curious, your perspective.
I heard that the other day, something I was reading or whatever, and it's basically said web applications that are specific to devices are on the way out.
Yeah.
And I was like, so what's coming? So you're kind of explaining.
Yeah. Yes.
So that scares me. I like everything on my computer.
Yeah.
I don't trust I barely trust Apple, and I think they're awesome. So my biggest concern is, are web applications, have they designed real secure? Can they be designed, for hacking, for if you're doing a business that has various government regulations to it?
Yeah.
You can be fined enormously, and you're supposed to know everything, and you don't.
Right.
How do you handle that?
Yeah. Yes, there is. Anything connected to the internet is insecure to an extent. And I have to say, security is not my specialty. Several of the applications we've built have had to be HIPAA compliant or other things like that, so that involves a fair amount of security. I know there are lots of applications out there that don't run into those problems, that are secure. And a lot of the times when you see somebody big get hacked, it's easy to go back. Yes, a lot of social engineering, and that's always the weakest point. It's always calling up a human and getting them to change your password. That's the majority of hacking. So don't give out your passwords. But there is often you can look at a lot of those big companies and say these are exactly the steps that they didn't take that would be considered standard security measures. The other thing with thinking about you like it having it on your computer, that's where the hybrid approach comes in. So if any of you use Slack or a tool like that, Slack is a web application. It has a native frame. You can download the frame, and you can open it like any other tool on your computer, but it is still a web application. Yeah, right. And so that's a common approach to solving both of those problems. Yeah.
When you look at these apps or you go into these businesses that are dealing with some of these web issues, what are maybe the top 2 or 3 deficiencies or blind spots that you see these companies having in your evaluation process?
Yeah. So, does there something come to mind for you?
They don't have the resources on hand to do this specific project. So they probably have some in-house developers of some kind, which is how we often get referrals from those people. But they want to do a specific project. We just got acquired by a larger company, for example, and now we have the money to take a piece of hardware that they bought and put some software with it. Can you come and develop the software? And they only have maybe a certain small segment of development knowledge in their company, and we offer like design, strategy, and all this other stuff, and they need us for a limited time, and then we hand it off to their internal team.
Yeah, in terms of blind spots, I would say they often don't realize that they need the full scope. They often, they're thinking often in the mindset of, well, we need these features, and they're thinking about features instead of the problems that we need to solve. So often we have to train clients. They'll come in and they'll say, we need this and this and this, and we'll say, wait, why? What's actually behind it? And then we'll propose that actually we want to go to a different path. And the clients that stick with us are the ones that like when we tell them no. So I would say that's
That's a terrible idea.
we actually, I've made it a practice too in all of my first meetings with a potential client. I'll find a way to say that we can't do something, and I'll find a way to tell them that we would go a different direction. I'll just slip those 2 things in always. Well, that's not a thing that we do. We know other people who do. Just something that makes it so, again, conveying that like we're not here to just get you no matter what. We're going to tell you what our actual skills are. And then also conveying to them that we are going to say no, and we're going to push you. And those things really seem to help us land clients. So, yeah.
What is the mix as far as the work you do as well as just the most profitable aspects of the business between strategy and design and actual development? So you said that you typically do strategy and design and then will often hand it off to the in-house developers. Where does that fall within your business?
Yeah. I'm generally doing the strategy with the client. Then we have 3 of us doing design and design interaction development, and then 3 doing functionality. And I would say we probably more of the time is going into development. More of my time is going into strategy.
Where would you, do you like that balance, or do you want to shift the business to where the business itself is doing more strategy and design and handing off to in-house teams versus development?
Right. I don't know. I think our team, they're all very good at understanding architecture and thinking in patterns and training other developers, and that would be an interesting tack for us to take. We do have several people on the team who just consider themselves developers, and so I don't think we're interested in moving completely away from them having work.
Right.
But I think it would be interesting for us to do more coming into a client and training their staff as we redo it. I think similar to what you were saying or someone here. Yeah.
We've been hesitant to do that only because we haven't ever gotten a client. We have even less idea how to find that client who just needs that and doesn't need development.
Yeah.
Could you give us like a 30,000-foot view level of a client example you've gone in and kind of what the overall project looked like and how you put that together?
Yeah, so with Quark, which is they do bicycle analytics hardware. So power meters in the pedals and various things like that, and then a live reporting tool sends a signal up every 2 seconds or something. So we came in, they came to us and said, can you just fix our code a little bit? We've got a big race on Saturday. We have 4 days, and we need it to just work a little bit better. And their code was a mess. It was just the worst. But we spent 3 days in their code just making it work, bare minimum. And then on Saturday, we saw that there were screenshots all over the internet of the work we had just done, because it was the Ironman Championships in Hawaii. And we were like, oh, okay. We would like to do better for that than 3 days. But then from that, they came back to us. They said, people liked what you did. Can we just have you redo it from scratch? So then we took that. And that was integrating with, which is sometimes the case, integrating with software they already had on the back end. So they have a database and an API, and then we were into building a front end for that database and API. And often in that case, then we have to step them back and say, okay, tell us why you built these features. We're not just going to rebuild it exactly the way it was. We want to know why. We want to be able to discuss the trade-offs and propose changes. Were you asking more specifically the process? No, you said wide view. Yeah. So we worked with them. We actually ended up working with them on 2 products. They did one that's for races and one that's for individual athletes. So we got to work on both of those. It was clear to us, and it has now been proven true, that the one for races is much more popular and where they're making their money, and I think they lost money on the individual athletes one. But we worked with them for about 2 years, and then we handed it back to their internal team. And we're still in communication with them, and I think they have some other ideas, but they're, yeah.
We have time for one more question for us.
Okay.
So just leading on to that, when you're redoing a whole new project, helping build a whole new product for them, are you also, running the usability testing and all the usability studies?
Yeah.
As well? Is that part of your offering?
Yeah, we do offer that. In many cases, our clients have wanted to run the tests, and then they send us the videos. And that's fine with us. We work with them to figure out what exactly needs to happen in usability testing and train them on it if they don't know. We've had several clients that did know how to do it, so that's been really nice. But absolutely, we do, yeah.
Are you doing some of the early validation with them as well, even before?
So that depends on the client. Some of them already feel fairly validated and are ready to go. We had one recently he was very good at scaling down each step and saying, okay, these are exactly the features I would need in order to validate the concept. And so we've, as quick as we could, built him just the pieces that he would need to take to users. And then he came back and he said, okay, my users liked the idea, but now I need to start building a community. So can you build me just these few more features? And that's been a fun process with him to take it really one step at a time. A lot of our clients come in with a wad of cash and want to get it done. But it is nice when we get to do that.
I gotta ask one more question. So
Yeah.
in the situation with Clark,
Yeah.
came to you in a sales role, you basically were a rescuer.
Yeah.
But have you thought about the process of why did somebody find me and give me a project with a 3-day turnaround? I mean, that's almost like a weird niche.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, we found them by going to my brother was at a developer meetup in Rapid City, South Dakota, and they showed up looking for a developer, and he happened to get in a conversation with the guy, and
So it was just happened.
it was happenstance. So
It wasn't targeted.
right, but we would love to target that if we could find it.
It's crisis management.
Yeah, actually, I mean, that's a thing that we could market more, is crisis management for your application.
And who would like to ask our super special question?
Oh, a special question.
What can we do as a community to help?
Yeah, that's what I was here to ask you. I don't know. I mean, I think you already have. I think we're definitely interested in talking more if you have more ideas. Also, if you know people who are in fields where this might be, where we could be useful, we'd be happy for the connections. Yeah, I think this is why we came. So we got it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.